In the heart of the Holy Roman Empire, the city of Strasbourg simmered under the summer sun of 1518. It was a time of deep anxiety and profound social distress. Famine stalked the lands, leaving fields barren and stomachs empty. Disease, a constant and unwelcome companion, whispered through the crowded streets. Political and religious tensions added another layer of uncertainty to daily life. The people of Strasbourg were living on a knife's edge, their spirits worn thin by hardship. It was in this crucible of suffering that one of history's most bizarre events would ignite. The stage was set for a phenomenon that would defy explanation for centuries. In July, a lone figure stepped into the oppressive heat of a Strasbourg street. Her name was Frau Trophäa, a resident of the city. Without music, without a partner, without any apparent reason, she began to dance. Her movements were not joyful. They were a frantic, desperate gyration. Her feet slapped against the cobblestones in a relentless, unnerving rhythm. Neighbors and passers-by stopped to stare, their faces a mixture of confusion and concern. She danced for hours, her body slick with sweat, her face a mask of exhaustion. Day turned into night, and still, Frau Trophäa danced on. She did not stop to eat, or drink, or rest. Her dance was a compulsion, an invisible force that had seized control of her body. For 6 long days, the solitary, silent dance continued. Her husband pleaded with her to stop, but his words were lost to the frenzy. The spectacle drew larger and larger crowds, a morbid curiosity taking hold of the city. Then, the unthinkable happened. Within a week, another person began to dance. And then, another, and another. The strange compulsion was spreading like a contagion. Soon, dozens of people were caught in the grip of this bizarre dancing mania. The streets of Strasbourg, once filled with the sounds of daily life, were now a stage for this silent, desperate ballet. The city's leaders, the physicians, and the councilmen were baffled. They consulted ancient texts and astrological charts, searching for an answer. Their diagnosis was hot blood, a natural disease caused by an overheated temperament. The proposed cure was not rest, but more dancing. The authorities believed the afflicted must dance the fever out of their systems. So, they took official measures to encourage the dancing. Guild halls were cleared to create dance floors. A large wooden stage was constructed in the horse market. They even hired professional musicians to provide a beat for the frenzied dancers. The city's strategy was to manage the plague by embracing it. This decision, however, would prove to be a catastrophic mistake. The presence of music and designated dancing areas only seemed to encourage more people to join. The plague intensified, its grip on the city tightening with each passing day. By August, the number of dancers had swelled to an estimated 400. The city was in the throes of a full-blown epidemic. The dancers were a pitiful sight, their bodies racked with spasms. Their clothes were tattered and soaked with sweat. They cried out in pain and begged for mercy, but their legs would not obey. The constant motion was taking a deadly toll. People began to die from heart attacks, strokes, and sheer exhaustion. Some contemporary accounts claim that as many as 15 people were dying each day. The city's well-intentioned cure had turned into a death sentence. The authorities, realizing their error, reversed their course. Public dancing was now strictly banned. Musicians were dismissed, and the stages were dismantled. The official explanation shifted from the natural to the supernatural. This was now deemed to be the work of a divine curse. The dancers were not sick. They were sinners being punished by St. Vitus. The new prescription was penitence and prayer. The remaining dancers were gathered up and taken to a shrine dedicated to St. Vitus. They were to pray for absolution and release from the dancing curse. Slowly, as mysteriously as it began, the plague started to recede. By early September, the last of the dancers had ceased their frantic movements. The dancing plague of 1518 was over. The questions remained, echoing through the centuries. What had caused this bizarre and deadly phenomenon? Was it truly a curse, a divine punishment for the sins of a city? This explanation satisfied the people of the 16th century, steeped in faith and superstition. But modern historians and scientists have sought other, more terrestrial answers. One of the most prominent theories points to a physical culprit, ergot poisoning. Ergot is a fungus that can grow on damp rye, a staple grain of the period. This fungus produces alkaloids that are chemically similar to LSD. Ingesting contaminated bread could lead to a condition known as ergotism. Symptoms include severe muscle spasms, convulsions, and vivid hallucinations. This could, in theory, explain the uncontrollable dancing. However, many historians argue against this theory. They point out that while ergotism causes spasms, it is unlikely to produce such coordinated and prolonged dancing. Furthermore, it's improbable that so many people would have eaten the exact right dose to induce dancing without more widespread, fatal poisoning. The victims also seem to be dancing with a purpose, even if that purpose was nonsensical. This leads to the most widely accepted explanation today, mass psychogenic illness. More commonly known as mass hysteria, it is a phenomenon where a group of people experiences similar physical or psychological symptoms with no identifiable physical cause. The conditions in Strasbourg in 1518 were a perfect breeding ground for such an event. The city was a powder keg of extreme stress, famine, and disease. People were desperate, and their minds were vulnerable. Crucially, there was a pre-existing belief in the power of St. Vitus to inflict a dancing curse. This provided a culturally accepted framework for their suffering. When Frau Trophea began her dance, she may have been in a state of extreme psychological distress. Others, seeing her and sharing the same underlying anxieties and beliefs, began to manifest the same symptoms. The dance became a trance-like state, a physical expression of their mental anguish. The authorities' initial reaction, encouraging the dancing, only validated the phenomenon. It gave the hysteria a form of official legitimacy. The dancers were, in a sense, performing a role that their culture had created for them. The mass hysteria theory explains why the plague spread so quickly and why it affected so many. It also explains why it ended when the cultural narrative shifted from hot blood to divine curse. The new focus on penance and religious intervention provided a different kind of psychological release. The journey to the shrine of St. Vitus was a powerful symbolic act of seeking a cure. The mystery of the dancing plague is not just a historical curiosity. It is a chilling reminder of the power of the human mind. It shows how social, psychological, and environmental pressures can converge to create extraordinary events. The dancing bodies in the streets of Strasbourg were a testament to a community under unbearable stress. Their dance was a desperate, unconscious cry for help. Whether caused by a curse, a poison, or a troubled psyche, the dancing plague remains a haunting episode in human history. The event serves as a stark illustration of collective anxiety. It highlights the vulnerability of communities pushed to their limits. The line between individual and collective consciousness blurred on those summer streets. The dancers moved as one, Yet each was trapped in their own private nightmare. The rhythm of the dance was the rhythm of shared despair. The silence of the dancers was more terrifying than any scream. Their bodies spoke a language of suffering that words could not express. The sun beat down mercilessly on the relentless performers. The city became a theater of the absurd, with life and death as the players. Children watched from windows, their eyes wide with a fear they could not comprehend. The plague was a fever of the soul that had manifested in the body. It was a social sickness given physical form. The memory of the dancing plague would haunt Strasbourg for generations. It became a cautionary tale, whispered in hushed tones, a reminder of the thin veil that separates order from chaos. The story of the dancers is a story about the human condition itself. It speaks to our capacity for both belief and delusion. It reveals how fear can be as contagious as any virus. The mystery endures, not because of a lack of evidence, but because of the complexity of its cause. It was a perfect storm of historical and psychological factors. The dancing plague is a mirror reflecting the anxieties of its time. And in that reflection, we can sometimes see our own modern fears. The silent dance of 1518 has never truly ended. It continues in the annals of history, a question mark that dances forever.